I'm joined by Councilor Driscoll, Councilor White, Councilor Paniagua, Councilor Hogan, and President Hudson. I see Commissioner Awald on here. If you'd like to start and just give us an introduction and walk us through the budget, I'd appreciate it. And if there are any questions, councilors, feel free to jump in. Thank you.
Well, good morning, everyone. This is Joseph Awald, Commissioner of Water. And I'm a professional engineer licensed in New York State with over 20 years of experience in the water industry. With me here in the Water Department is Deputy Commissioner John Walsh and our Management Analyst, Beth Smith. Before we begin reviewing our accomplishments of fiscal year 21 and our goals for fiscal year 22, I would like to thank the Council for their support over the past 3 years, which has made these accomplishments real and successful. I also want to share a presentation with you to give you an idea of our upcoming budget. Can everyone see the presentation?
Yes.
Excellent. So our fiscal year 21 in review. We were able to complete several projects that we had planned to complete. Last year at this time, we set out to invest in our aging infrastructure through several improvement projects. And I'm happy to report we were able to complete 5 of the 6 projects that we were set out to complete, with 2 additional unplanned projects. I won't go into detail into all the projects we have in front of us, but I would like to highlight some of them, such as the computerized maintenance management system, CMMS, and the water main replacement on the 300 and 400 block of South Salina Street. Some of the additional projects we completed this past year were the construction of, or will be completing this year by June, will be the construction of the Morningside Reservoir Center Dome replacement and facility upgrades, along with the water main improvements on the 24-inch diameter water main along Montgomery Street from Erie Boulevard to Adams. This will be a water lining project, which will be much less invasive than an open trench construction project. We'll also be replacing the 16-inch diameter water main along East Jefferson Street from South Clinton to Montgomery. In the past year, there was not a lot of grant offerings for us to apply for. However, we were able to secure a $500,000 grant for the construction of the Brighton Avenue pump station and water main replacement. We're anticipating this construction project will be under construction in the first half of fiscal year 22. We'll have some information on that coming up. And we will aggressively pursue any additional government grants and or assistance for our anticipated construction projects for the fiscal year 22 season. Some of the system improvements that we had were 15 lead service replacements, 77 hydrants replaced, 55 valves replaced, 38 valves repaired. We tackled 352 breaks and leaks, and we had over 200 water cuts restored, and we're tackling more every day. Some of the projects I wanted to highlight was the CMMS system will help us with our managing of our work orders and workloads and maintenance needs. It'll provide an effective and efficient management of this work, and also will help us comply with regulatory requirements. Another project I'd like to highlight is the 300 and 400 block of South Salina Street. This one was a very aggressive project, open trench excavation, but it was a real necessary for us to replace this water main, which was originally installed in 1896. So we replaced over 900 linear feet of water main along these 2 blocks. You can see the aged infrastructure we pulled out as part of this project. Also want to highlight the Morningside Reservoir dome replacement and facility upgrades. This is a project we started late in the fall of last year. The project construction cost was estimated to be about $2.7 million. Last year, we received a grant of $2.1 million for this project, and we're anticipating the construction to be completed by June. These improvements involve new valving and piping for the reservoir, also some new inlets and outlets. So part of our system improvements that we discussed included hydrant replacements and water main replacements. This past year, we worked on a lot of large water main replacements and fixes. You can see some of the large infrastructure that was pulled out as part of these projects. And part of this, our crews are working day and night in all weather conditions, and they can be sometimes in dangerous conditions, such as an employee was involved in an accident from a commuter car not paying attention and not seeing all the safety and warning equipment ahead of them, ran head into one of our crew leader trucks. Fortunately, our employee was hurt only minorly. However, he's still not back to work yet. So these guys do a lot of hard work in a lot of different conditions, and I give them a lot of credit for that. So some of the challenges we have is our aging infrastructure that runs from Skaneateles Lake all the way to the city and through the city. Here we have an example of a broken 30-inch conduit halfway between the lake and the city here, which created a large amount of damage and was very deep. It was almost 15 feet underground. We had to get in there and repair. That was the review of our fiscal year 21. Some of the highlights we have for our fiscal 22 budget. We have no change in water fees or rates. We are continuing to secure other sources of revenue, such as an intermunicipal agreement with the Village of Skaneateles, and we are also looking at an additional intermunicipal agreement with the Town of DeWitt for services. We're proposing to hire 2 new positions. One is a construction manager, another one is a system assistant superintendent to help manage the conduits from the lake to the city and also help manage the gatehouse in Skaneateles. Our capital improvement projects for fiscal year 22 has doubled since 21, and that is in part of all the upcoming projects we are anticipating. Some of the upcoming projects we're looking at for fiscal year 22 involve the design of the chlorine facility upgrades out at Skaneateles Lake, the design of the Mosley pump station and replacement along with 2 new transmission water mains along Sunnycrest Ave and Glen Cove Road. Skaneateles weir improvements, which we need for our measurement of how much water we're releasing from the lake, which is a regulatory requirement. One of our gatehouses out on the conduits is in desperate need of repair, so we're proposing to build a brand new one, which will interconnect all 3 conduits to give us better flexibility on bringing water into the city in case we have a leak on one of the conduits. Also, we're looking at facility improvements, which will be an upgraded SCADA system, which will help us manage and monitor our pump stations and reservoirs throughout the city. Security improvements to our facilities, such as gates, intrusion detection on doors or hatches. And the anticipated construction projects we have for this upcoming year is the Brighton Avenue pump station and water main replacement. We're looking to bid out, once we have the design complete, the chlorine facility upgrades, along with the Mosley pump station projects. Any questions?
Commissioner, I'd be curious when you do one of those pieces, like you said, it was from, what was it, the late 1800s, that section of pipe you took out. When you replace that with something, how does it, I guess I'm curious how it interacts with the, you know, I'd imagine the newer infrastructure's got to be quite different. And how does it interact with what was there, you know, what's there before, and, you know, how does that work?
So a lot of the older infrastructure would be cast iron piping, and the newer stuff we're installing would be ductile iron piping. The differences we see in those two types of pipe is that the cast iron does not have any kind of interior lining, nor does it have any exterior coating to protect it from corrosion. In the late 1800s, even through the 1900s, when cast iron was used, there were several different classes which provided different thickness of. We find on the conduits that a lot of the pipe is deeper thickness, so there's an oversizing of the outside diameter of the pipe to the new pipe, and we are able to link those two together with special couplings which take into account the old pipe and the new pipe and the different outside diameters of each.
Interesting stuff. Thanks.
Commissioner, I saw that, you know, as you were working on water main there, that the cost, I don't know, I can't remember it quite well, because you said that the cost of it was going to be $2.7 million. Then you apply for the grant and you awarded 2.1 of that. Now, what is with all the water main and replacement that you do, what would you say would be hopefully like a percentage of grant that you end up getting with the projects that you do? Is the grant a good chunk of it, or how does that work?
So with the water projects, a lot of the capital projects we receive grants for over the past several years, they typically fund up to 60%. A lot of the grants have a cap at 60% funding, and the applicant needs to come up with 40%. Every once in a while, we get a extra little nugget where we can apply for a little bit more than 60%, but it depends on the funding agency and their requirements. A lot of times, water mains themselves are not applicable for these grants. It's more of the pump stations or storage treatment facilities where these grants come into play.
And a lot of these grants are federal or state, Commissioner?
They are typically state grants through EFC. We're waiting to see what kind of granting opportunities are going to happen this year with all the federal stimulus money and what's out there and how they're going to be distributing that money. We've already been in discussion about several different projects that are on this list here for this upcoming year to potentially be funded, hopefully.
Okay, and do they come in with a personnel component to them, or are they strictly capital?
Personnel component. I'm not sure what you mean by that question.
So say, for example, you apply for grant. Do they strictly say that this grant will be used on capital, and you can't use it to compensate employee time or something like that?
Yes, they're strictly for capital improvement. It's not for labor purposes.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions for the water department? All right. Hearing none, I'm going to call this meeting to an end. Thank you, Commissioner Ewald. Appreciate your time. And thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.